It's really about retraining the wires in the brain to say want and desire are my pathway towards my purpose, towards doing the things that I'm meant to do here for my own good and the higher good of other people, versus my wants and my desires are superfluous and shameful and greedy and selfish. That's what's keeping people stuck. So it's about reconnecting people to desire and seeing desire as such a powerful force for good for yourself and the world.
Hey everybody, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Jen Giammo.
And welcome to another episode of Everybody Talks, the podcast where we explore the wide world of wellness. Sometimes we talk to experts, sometimes we just talk to each other, but we're always talking to you. And if you want to watch this episode, go to our YouTube channel right now and watch us at Everybody Talks Podcast.
Every week, we discuss topics from nutrition and exercise to mindfulness and self-care. And today, we are talking to an intuitive life and leadership guide, author, speaker, and host of the podcast Signal with Mory and Melissa. As founder and CEO of the transformation consultancy 822 Group, she helps leaders, creators, and public figures reconnect with their inner wisdom to lead with clarity, dignity, and purpose. Before becoming a spiritual teacher, she spent nearly 2 decades working in crisis and change management, guiding Fortune 500 CEOs, global brands, and high-profile individuals through high-stakes challenges.
Her own breakthrough came when she leaned fully into her intuition, leaving the corporate world behind to build a life and career rooted in self-trust instead of external validation. She's guided change makers like Jonathan Van Ness, Dylan Mulvaney, and Shani Nicholas through deeply personal transformation. Her debut book, Higher Self, Reclaiming the Power of Your Intuition, encourages readers to cast off fear-driven messages and rediscover the quiet, profound knowing inside us all, something we all need. Please welcome our guest today, Mory Fontanez. Mory, welcome to Everybody Talks.
Hi, ladies. Thank you for having me.
No, it's our pleasure. It's a great way to start our day, I think.
Yeah.
Me too.
I love
could
all
talk about
things.
This all day, every
Good.
day.
So could Jen.
So could I. I'm very, very excited for this conversation.
Perfect.
But why don't you start with telling us a little bit about yourself, your own personal journey, how you started in talking to executives, but now you're just doing intuitive work with people just like us.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for that really beautiful introduction. I mean, I think that really is the themes of how I landed here. Really was that I always had this kind of relationship to this quieter part of myself that sort of just knew stuff. When I was little, I remember the look on my mom's face when I would say things to her that I wasn't supposed to know or understand or something, tiny. These are all little premonitions. Maybe that's a better word for those of us that are cynical. I'd say, in the mailbox, there's a postcard and it's got a rose on it and it's from your brother. And sure enough, I'd go to the mailbox and there it was. So I always had this little knowing part of me that I, sort of took for granted because it was there. And I really channeled it into solving problems for people. I grew up as the child of immigrants who then got divorced with a single mom who really, was a source of joy and love, but also it's really stressful to raise 2 girls, thousands of miles from Iran, in a country that you're not from and without financial help from anyone. So I took in a lot of that stress from her. And I decided I was going to fix, that if it was chaos, I was going to fix it. And it became such a comfortable way for me to exist. I made a career out of it. So crisis management became really just a natural place for me. I wanted to do advertising. And I landed in, entertainment marketing. And, that was when digital and social first started to really proliferate. So now I'm really dating myself. And so things that people didn't expect to happen were happening. Things that people shouldn't know were starting to be known. And I built my career in using that same sense to help guide people, I think we should do this. I'm sensing this is the right answer. And then finding over and over again, oh, I had the right answer in me, and starting to get curious as I got older and my career continued to progress. Well, wait a minute. If I can do this, can everybody do this? And why are they not listening? Why is it that they need to pay millions of dollars for a PR firm to come in here and teach them how to really listen and to also tell their truth in a way that is you know, palatable.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that part of it is what really struck me. I couldn't live that way anymore, where it was about massaging messages for people to say who didn't really mean them, and getting people to trust you when you didn't even trust you.
Hmm.
That was
Yeah.
hard for me. And so that chasm started to really wear on me. And, I tell this to people all the time: when you're ignoring that whisper, that chasm, that thing that's not aligned to your soul, what actually happens is crisis. Crisis is the result of ignoring that whisper. And so for me, it turned into really a state of deep depression in that job that I had really dreamed of, as a child of immigrants. To make it in corporate America is everything. And here I am, the global head of strategy at one of the largest PR firms. And I can't even find it in me to want to wake up and smile and have any kind of life force in me anymore. And I had two little kids, single mom, and my partner at the time, now my husband, just was like, "You're disappearing and it's scary." And that was the moment where I thought, okay, I need to pay attention to this thing in me that I keep trying to turn away from, because it's so scary to think that this career I built isn't the one for me. And so I started to listen. I started to listen to the voice.
And how did you make that transition? I mean, that had to
Yeah.
be scary as well, leaving, this, I'm assuming, high paying job, high powered job, to go and do something that was, although it was known to you internally, you didn't really know what you were going to do with it, right? Like, what did that look like?
I mean, if I'm being honest, I think I was really prepared to do it by the divorce I had just gone through. I think that was the harder one, to really listen to my higher self, the one that wants the best for you, who communicates to you through your intuition. And so I had just gone through 2.5 years of total inner turmoil and heartbreak, and maybe I shouldn't do it. Oh, hell, I definitely need to do it. Oh, I'm too scared to do it. Like, hearing that calm, knowing self versus my fear self, and being in that dance for 2 years, I started to keep track of what happens when I listen to the calm, knowing voice. What literally happens? And what happens when I listen to the small, contracted, fearful one? And it was starting to build this log of evidence for me that said, actually, when it breaks through, it's really calm. And when you follow it, even if it's a little thing, hey, I think we should go to marriage counseling. Hey, I think I'm going to get a lawyer. Hey, just the tiny little things. Hey, I think you should move out for a couple months. Um, every time I listened, more peace followed and more wholeness came in here. It was more like I was reclaiming parts of myself again. And I felt like this person I hadn't felt like in a long time. And so I had gone through that when this next kind of crisis emerged.
So you were
Um,
ready. You were ready
I
for it.
was ready. I was ready. The fear voice was saying, you're a single mom, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
you don't have the luxury. But I remembered, hey, it's just the little. It's just listen to the little next step and the little next step. And through that, it just started to unfold slowly. And you just have to have trust and faith. I wish there was an easier, potion I could give people, but it is the most transformative thing when you just believe the part of you that says, I know and you deserve to thrive, and I'm going to get you there.
Yeah.
So funny when you're talking about your divorce. I went through a very similar feeling when my ex finally moved out. Like, I remember walking into my apartment after all of his stuff was gone, which he did leave quite a mess for me to clean up, I have to say. But the feeling of, like, I felt like I could breathe. Like, all of a sudden I realized how I hadn't been breathing for years. And I was like kind of pushing that away, because I was like, no, 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 I'm going to stay. I'm going to stick this out. And then once he had gone, I was like, oh my God, I feel like myself, which I hadn't felt like myself. Like I totally related to what you just said, because that's exactly how I felt.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly how I
totally.
felt.
And the
Yeah.
dignity that begins to return to
Yeah.
you, when you're contracting so much to make someone else comfortable and happy.
Sure.
And all of a
Sure.
sudden, there's space to kind of hold your head up and put your shoulders back. That sense of dignity is
Mhm.
so addictive.
Yeah.
It was like, for me, I'm not giving this up for anyone.
Right. And it's like you take that control back and
Yeah.
you're confident about that control.
Right.
But
Right.
I feel like fear, it drowns out that voice all the time, that higher knowing voice, right? I think for me at least. So, and being kind of stuck in that fear pattern, like what would you say to our listeners? Like what's the first thing that they could notice, that is this their intuition speaking to them, or is this fear? Like, are they making this decision out of fear or out of their intuition? What does that sense feel like?
This is my favorite question. I'm telling you that discernment is the greatest tool to following your intuition. And I just want to, before we keep talking about intuition, I want to address the elephant in the room, which is that when this word is said, it is considered woo-woo.
Yes.
I want to be really clear. Every single one of you, including both of you, follow your intuition daily. It is a practical, pragmatic part of you that you probably just don't pay attention to and categorize and verbalize. So my mission and purpose isn't so much to say, hey, trust this mystical, magical thing that you can't prove. It's to actually give you words and language and evidence so that you see it active in your life. Even if it's Lori thinks about Jen and Jen calls her in that moment. That is a intuitive, it's telepathy, but it is an intuitive knowing. So, it's really important, I will say, when you're working on rebuilding your relationship with this knowing self, to look for evidence, because our brains love evidence. And the thing with fear is we've been trained to immediately find tangible evidence for our fear. That is something that we have been taught to do from a very young age in multiple ways. Our families and their own fears and the way they hand those limiting beliefs down to us. And then the systems that we are in, growing up in, whether that is media or, watching the news or higher education saying, trust the book. Maybe don't ask the question. There's a lot of ways it's reinforced in us that the fear thought or someone else's thought is more valuable than the knowing thought. So what happens is we have this bias, this negativity bias, where when you're afraid of something, you find evidence that it's true. You find evidence that it might happen. You'll look over at your friend, Sally, and say, I know this could happen because it happened to her. And so therefore it becomes evidence for you. We are not curious about the evidence around our intuition. And then I just want to say one more thing, because you asked about deciphering. Fear has an emotion attached to it. Even if it's a little, subtle emotion, it has something. It's got a sadness or an anxiety. It's got, almost think about fear as having little weights on it that's pulling you down, right? The thought has a little weight. Intuition is emotionally neutral. Intuition is emotionally neutral.
So you just listen and you go. You don't think, just do it.
No, I mean, listen, sometimes you feel it, you hear it, you think it, and your fear grabs it, and you got a lot of feelings about it.
Yeah.
But when the thought first arrives, there's no emotion attached. And that's the greatest way you can discern between the two, is if something's making you anxious or scared or sad, that's a fear thought. If something is clear, calm, neutral, even if it's bad news, even when it was, hey, you have to leave this marriage with a 1-year-old and a newborn, even then, it's not like it's happy, but it wasn't scary. So it's important to tell the difference in how your system feels when you receive the thought or you have the thought.
Wow, that's a great way to explain it. I've never heard it explained like that before. Right? Like that makes a lot of sense. And then it's just, being sort of present in yourself to recognize when you I always say, like, I don't get gut feelings.
No,
I don't get.
I do all the time.
I'm always overthinking.
That's hilarious, Lori, given that before we started recording, you said you're the one who doesn't.
I'm a big proponent of listening to your gut. Like, if something is gnawing at me to not do something, I don't know what the reason is, but I don't do it.
There we go.
Or, I have a lot of trouble making decisions. That's something else. But in the end, I kind of know what my gut is telling me what to do, which is, I think I'm always, like, the fear is the thing that is controlling the decision. And like, I know what to do.
Right. But we don't talk about it because, Lori, how are you going to explain that?
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
We don't have
Yeah.
language for it.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
like, I just feel it and I do it. There are plenty of people out there who want to tell you that's crazy because they've been trained to look for evidence, and they've been trained, by the way, to trust the wisdom of other people
Of other people.
over
Yeah.
themselves. So
Yeah.
to them, that's crazy. But to me, the reverse is crazy. Like, truly, you're going to trust someone else's advice about your life than your
Sure.
own knowing, your own system that's living this life? That to me is madness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then, Mory, how do we kind of retrain ourselves to recognize that quieter voice? Because I feel like my fear voice is so loud.
So loud. I mean, look, I have one too, but yours is super loud.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have developed quite the relationship with my anxiety in a couple of ways. One, big part of my method is identifying that fear voice. The fear voice is always a past version of you, stuck in some kind of moment of pain and deciding to stay in that moment of pain to remind you that you might get heartbroken again. And therefore, it's going to protect you. And usually they're little, which to me is quite endearing. I have a daughter. And so I started doing this work when she was really little. And I think sometimes when we can't find compassion for ourselves, it's easier to do it for the littles in our life, whoever they are, nibblings, nieces, sisters, whatever. And so, I really feel like she was such a gift from the universe, because as I was starting to do this healing work on my own little self, who had a lot of fear and anxiety because life was chaotic when I was little, I would look at her and think, does she deserve to think the thought that this is forever? Does she deserve to think the thought that this is happening because she's not enough, or that she needs to quiet down more, or she shouldn't give her opinion so clearly because those white men in that boardroom don't like it so much?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I would really put myself in that place. And so I think that the first step, I know that the first step is understanding that you are not your fear. Your fear is a projection from the past that is casting an illusion on your current life. We believe that illusion as though it is factual. We confuse our identity with the fear thought. So when you can take a step back and say, oh, this fear of running out of money or this business of mine not working is coming from this 7-year-old whose parents got divorced, me. I can actually visualize the 7-year-old then in front of me and say, I see you having this fear. And what that does instantaneously is, one, it gives attention to this part of you that's looking for attention, but two, it separates you from the thought. And so no longer are you in the illusion, I am this thought, which means this thought is true. Because if you believe it, it is true, period. I promise you that. But the minute you separate yourself and say, no, the 7-year-old believes it. So does that mean I have to? No. What it does is, that's quite healing, but it creates space. And in that space, guess who comes rushing in? Your knowing self. Because what it needs is a little bit of quiet, a little bit of distance from the kid screaming and pulling on your skirt saying, hey, 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 it's going to go really bad. The minute you can be like, hold on a minute, you get that feeling. And that's when you start to listen. And then the discernment I taught you is really important. Oh, that was a calm thought. What would happen if I just followed this calm thought today? What would happen? Let me just experiment and see what would happen. And that is how you begin to build your relationship, because the more you listen and the more you follow, the louder it becomes.
I just think that it's harder to, at least for me, it's harder to picture the outcome being different the next time around, or what, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I tend to kind of think back and like, well, what did I do then to make that happen? And am I still doing it now? And like, so I get very in the weeds of those thoughts.
100%. And you know what's wild? It doesn't even have had to happen to you for you to get in the weeds of your thoughts. If it happened to mom or dad,
Yeah.
if it happened to grandma or great grandma or great great grandma, science is showing us that trauma gets passed down genetically.
Genetically.
Yeah.
So it doesn't even have to have happened to you, which I remember when I learned that, I was like, holy shit, the odds are so stacked against us.
They are.
Do this because it's not even your own shit. It's so much stuff that you're carrying in you. There's so many limited beliefs that are handed to you generationally, not out of harm, wrapped as little gifts of care, but they're like bombs that explode because they are not the highest thought about you. They're coming from a limited thought.
Yeah.
Right.
Or even just involuntary,
Yeah.
things
100%.
like you still like, genetics. And I think about anxiety and my anxieties that I have, and definitely they're passed down. 100%.
Absolutely. Anxiety is very passed down. I relate. I'm with you.
Terrible.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of chatter. I want to tell you something about anxiety that I've learned, if you want to hear it.
Yeah.
I have learned that anxiety is the practicing of future heartbreak or disappointment that may never come.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what's fascinating to me about that is when I let myself feel the sadness of whatever, what I've started to learn is, that impact of sadness hurts and passes so much faster than the worrying about the sadness coming. Right? So like the very system that's trying to protect you from the future sadness is causing you to suffer.
Yes.
Versus your mind starting to say, actually, the suffering passes faster and I have the resilience to withstand the suffering. I don't need all this preparation because also 80% of the time it never happens.
Yes. My dad used to always say, because I got it from him, this lovely anxiety. But he would say, it's the fear of the fear.
Mm-hmm.
You are just in this anticipatory fear.
Yeah.
And like you said, I mean, I've had panic attacks before, and my fear is I'm going to have a panic attack. And that feeling is the worst feeling in the world, right? So it's like, but I anticipate it all the time. When I've had them, they're horrible, but I didn't die. It's like,
that's the thought right then is like, what, if this happens, I'm resilient enough to survive it.
Yeah. Ugh, but I got a lot more work to do on that.
It's hard. I live with anxiety. I know. I understand.
So one of the things that you talk about in your book is how like our bodies kind of give us these signals, like before our mind catches on to what we're doing, right? So what kind of signals do you think that we get from our bodies that we just ignore?
What just happened to your body when we were talking about your anxiety?
My heart started to race a little bit. Yeah.
Right. So there's always a signal. It's just that we don't mind-body connect. So usually what happens with my clients is when it's a fear thought, it's a contraction in the body, because what the body is doing, the soma is there to protect. So the muscle structure in your body is literally contracting, usually around your heart, to protect. That's what it's doing. So when you're in a fear thought, your muscles are contracted or your heart is racing, right? When you're in an intuitive thought, your body is more relaxed. You're not feeling the tension or the pressure. So when I walk people through this visualization that we do, and their eyes are closed and they're in the fear thought, they're describing the body, then I'll do this thing and move them over to their higher self. And the minute that they connect, first of all, I can feel it. The first thing they say is expansive. I feel like I'm expanding. It's almost like all of it is opening up and just like, expanding outward. All that muscle, instead of holding like this, is like, I'm going to take up space. I don't have to be so scared. And so your body begins to feel more expanded, quite literally. Deep breath like that. You start to just relax and be in this state also of groundedness. What that means is I'm not floating up into some kind of chaotic thought. I'm very much here. When your intuition's speaking to you, it's very present. So you're in the present moment. It's almost like your senses, like, have you ever seen those movies where the senses all of a sudden are altered, right? Like you can, what is it, like Spider-Man, right? Like when he can like smell and see and all that stuff. It's true that when you're grounded and you're present in your intuition, colors seem brighter. You know what I mean? Things feel like they're a little bit in slow motion. You can feel the air differently. Your senses are heightened because you're totally present.
That also sounds like you described mushrooms, being on mushrooms.
But let's talk about what mushrooms do. What they're doing is
that is what
go on hold, and the ego is the one holding the fear thought. So you're actually, when you're, doing any kind of psychedelic journey or work, it is a total intuitive experience because your consciousness is now in communication with something that is unseen that was being blocked by the chatter of the fear ego.
Yeah. Does it so does it take a long time to kind of
This is the
quiet?
question that Jen asks of anyone who's in your kind of health space. How fast can I
How do
learn
I
to
do
do
it?
this?
Well,
because I need to stop feeling, she just wants to stop feeling the way she's feeling. So she wants to do the work to,
I want to do the
speaking
work
for you actually, but.
and I just wonder, like, does it take, like, I love everything you're saying, and I have thought about doing psychedelics for that
Mushrooms, yeah.
reason. Yeah. Excuse me. Because I don't know how to turn off that part of my brain so easily. But I mean, I guess I don't really know what my question is other than, like,
How does this shit actually work instead
Yeah.
of it being so intellectual? Yeah, listen, it's a felt experience. So there's, this is why mushrooms can be helpful, because what they're doing is giving you the felt experience. And then your brain goes, oh, that's what it's like to have a thought that's not fear-based, right? Now, I believe, having done psilocybin, there's a lot of training and prep that has to go into being able to absorb what happens in a psilocybin journey. And that work, that foundation building, is about believing that this is even possible and learning to go towards self-trust versus, I'm on this bit of this thing, maybe it's controversial, not self-help, self-trust. Not other people telling you, telling you. And so doing that work to believe that part of yourself helps so much when you start to receive the information, because it can be quite jarring, not scary, but just, whoa, your brain's expanded. So you have to prepare yourself. That is one route. There's plenty of other ways to do it. It's not about quickness.
Okay.
It's about reducing suffering over time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the measure of success in this kind of healing work and returning to true self-trust and intuition is how much less suffering exists in me today as it did yesterday. And starting to incrementally measure that. It's like I was telling you, the negativity bias of our brains is going to measure all the ways we are suffering because you're taught that's vigilance. But the reframe I'm offering you is, when you begin to engage in any kind of work like this, it's, what is the incremental change that I can notice in me from a week ago, a month ago, a year ago? And when that stacks up and you start to see evidence for it, you start to choose that way of living and being more often. But the part of you that's in fear never goes away. When it does, you're done in this lifetime. You're always working to heal the core wound, the core fear self. That is a lifelong journey. It doesn't mean you have to suffer while you do it. So there's a lot of different modalities and methods to do it. But when I tell you that just right now, I offered your consciousness this nugget that it's not going to forget, which is, fear feels one way, intuition feels another. You're going to start to notice the difference. And then you're going to start to log evidence. And as you log evidence, you're going to start to choose the intuitive self. And that's when you start to see the work actually take effect.
So, like, journaling it,
You
keeping
can
a
write it.
journal.
Yeah. Any other way, voice notes, like writing it in your
Mm-hmm.
phone, just logging it in your brain. For me,
Mm-hmm.
I really started to feel like I could even write this book when I allowed myself in sessions with clients. I didn't expect ever to be sitting across, people you see on TV and film on a Zoom trying to heal them. That wasn't my journey. I was a crisis manager. And then this has happened. This method started to really work. And I would do it and I would start to just have to challenge myself. Hey, when you get an intuitive hit about this person, say it. Just say it. Even if they look at you like you're nuts, you can handle it. And the more that I did it, and the more I would watch them be like, how could you know that? Why do you know that about me? The more my brain would clock validation. That intuition that you said out loud is just being validated back. So the more that you feel like, Laura, you say you get these guts, just say them and watch people react to you, watch the environment react to you. And then you'll start to log, oh, I was right. And there, like I said, there's nothing more addicting than that feeling of like, oh, there's a part of me that is always right. I just have to trust it enough to say it out loud.
Yeah, I mean, I always think I'm right anyway, so I may
You
as well.
do. I get. Believe me, she does.
Maybe
You're almost
I'm
there.
rarely.
I
I'm
need some.
rarely right, but sometimes I slip in there.
Maybe I just need to offer you some validation of the
I
fact
guess
that I'm
that's
always
true.
right.
There you go.
But so, Mory, so talk to us a little bit about that and how you work with clients. And so you are also sort of feeling into what they're feeling or what they're. So talk to us about that. What does a session look like?
Yeah. You remember I talked about this little girl in me who just could feel mom stress. I really learned that that was a big part of my intuition. If I'm looking at you, I'm starting to feel you fully. I'm starting to feel your sadness, your anxiety, or this. And so a session with me, I try to tell people, it's like, I want you to come in because, people come, a CEO will come and say, I hear you're a great leadership coach. And I'm like, I sort of have to explain to you what all of this is because it's going to freak you out. But really it can feel like a third therapy. I'm not a therapist, but this method that I have channeled or that I begin to do on the little self can feel very much like that. So it can feel very much like that. And then there is this tactical strategist in me. I was in corporate America for 20 years. So it can feel very tactical and strategic. Like you want to get from A to B. What are the next steps? How are we going to get you there? And then the last third is I'm getting you to tune into your higher self through some visualizations and methods I have developed. And so what's happening when we're in that meditation together is you're receiving information. I also happen to be receiving. And so I'm validating back to you the things that you're hearing or seeing the things you're seeing and saying, you see that little door right there? And people are like, yeah, how do you see it? So there is a way that we don't understand telepathy. Listen to the telepathy tapes if you
Oh my
haven't.
gosh.
Yes,
Yes.
she loves that.
I'm
It's
obsessed.
incredible. You
Yes.
should listen, Lori. It's
I know
actually
I should actually.
it's
It-
made for people who aren't as easily convinced.
Yeah.
And it's so research backed. But
Yes.
the whole point is that we are energetic beings and we communicate beyond verbal. And so when you lose the ability to be verbal, it's about nonverbal children with autism. In the beginning, it turns into a whole other thing.
Right.
But when you lose the ability to be verbal, you access that energetic part of you. And so that's what's happening to me in a session is I'm there with you. I'm receiving what you're receiving. And so what happens is the session just moves faster because I'm very direct. So I'll just say, this is what I'm getting, and then we can work on it. And we work through it. But my goal is always, I don't want you to need me. I don't want you to rely on me. I want to show you the part of you that knows, because that's the part I tapped into. It's not my wisdom, it's yours. And if I can show you a doorway into that, then you're off to the races.
Do people come in for a specific issue, or it's more a general I need to turn my life around?
Yeah,
kind of
it
thing?
is. I think because I am a crisis manager still,
Yeah.
it is usually crisis oriented, and it can
Right.
be a life crisis. It can be a career crisis. The other big moment I notice people show up is just during change. A change is either happening that they are trying to make happen or that they did not mean for it to happen. And we're really working through how do we capitalize on this opportunity, this energy of change, and bring in what you really desire. So usually it's some kind of life moment like that. And other times it could be, I've spent years and years suffering with anxiety. I'm tired of it. Let's find a new way past it.
I'm just processing that. Sorry. I'm thinking about all the reasons why I would come to see you. So it's this self-trust and this idea of self-trust that's so important, right? So that way you're not just checking a box. You're kind of,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why I believe that skepticism is such an important part of the spiritual process. Because when you're a skeptic, what you're doing is you're asking questions, you're pushing back.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise, you're in a cult.
Right.
So the reason I say self-trust, not self-help,
Right.
I don't want you to pick up a book of XYZ person and that person says this is how to live your life. And then you go to attempt to do that thing. That's not organic to your system.
Mm-hmm.
What's organic to your system is, hey, the self that knows and wants me to thrive and believes I deserve dignity because I am a dignified being. What is the way to go? And that self deciding, not some best-selling author we're seeing everywhere. And I know I wrote a book and I get it,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's about really learning that you have the answers. And so skepticism allows that as
Allows
well.
that.
Are there
Right.
other elements, obviously fear, everyone's driven by fear, as you've just
Yeah.
said. But are there other emotions that drive you, the mistrust of yourself?
Yes. Not an emotion, but a survival strategy, people pleasing. We have such a desire for belonging. It's one of our 3 basic psychological needs as humans: love, dignity, belonging. And in the search for belonging, we are constantly sacrificing our truth and our knowing for other people's truth and knowing. And so when you are a teenager and you're a freshman and you're walking into that cafeteria and all you want is friends, what they believe as the hive mentality matters so much more than what you need, what you want, what you sense, what you know. And no one ever stops you at that moment and says, hey, what you're sensing is actually your superpower. They say, go with the group because you don't want to be left behind, right? So when we are constantly in search of validation from others, which is very human, this is not being said with judgment, we are constantly sacrificing this sensing self to make other people like us, to make other people comfortable. A lot of this people pleasing comes from childhood for a lot of us, where mom or dad required, especially if your parent was a narcissist or, you had someone that was very self focused, then you were taught, I have to make everything about you. I have to show up and make you happier or make you smile or whatever it is. And so what you lose in that strategy is any curiosity about self. What do I think? What do I want? What do I feel? And I find that most of us have some people pleaser in there somewhere, again, because belonging is such a need, and that can cause us to ignore.
But don't you feel that I've just noticed this about myself as I've gotten older and other people in like my age range is that you start to care less about that. Like I care so much less what people think, and I
Totally.
do so much more of what I mean, I wish it didn't take me until now to figure that out. Um,
Agreed.
Better
Same.
late than never.
better late than never, right? But it's so interesting to me that part of it is starting to disappear. And maybe it's like, you're in your like final chapter of life that you're just
God,
like,
how depressing is that?
I know, but I'm just saying that's the truth. I mean,
Once you
by the
really
way-
trust yourself, it's over.
it's done. Then you keel
Your
over
life
and
is
you're
done.
out.
You might as
Peace
well
out.
shrivel up.
Peace
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
By the
No,
way,
I didn't-
she's not 85.
I'm not
just
85.
so you know.
I'm not 85. But I do find that it's like you're just like, oh my God, I need to do more of what you're saying and do the things that I want to do and choose,
And who do you think is saying that within you?
I actually have no idea. But I would say this
That's the
16-year-old
question.
girl there. Yeah.
That's the
But
question: is what's
yeah.
that voice all of a sudden that's
Yeah.
louder? Who's that version of
Yeah.
me? Oh,
It's
that's not the fear self. So if it's not the fear self, which self is that? And we get closer to that self as we get older. That's what wisdom is.
Yeah, but I think that we're so conditioned to look outside ourselves. I think, yes, as you get older, it changes, but there's still that validation, I think. I mean, there's still that like, look at social media. I mean,
well, that's been
constantly-
a huge change in the way people view themselves in relation. At the time of this recording, Taylor Swift just got, I hate to bring up this, but Taylor Swift just got engaged.
Yeah.
And I have never seen, I don't care. I'm going to say it right now. I really don't care. Yay, good for you.
Yeah.
Right.
But aside from
People
that,
are losing it.
they are losing their
It's like it happened
minds.
to them. I know.
They are happier than they've been if they got engaged themselves. And that is just a product of this kind of social media acceptance. And you feel like if you're not posting, and I'm talking about all ages, not just
Totally.
in like people in my, I can't get over it. I honestly can't get over it.
Well, listen, I think we humans take the tools that we get and we can either totally fuck them up or we can use them to our
Yeah.
advantage.
Right.
And social media is no different. Social media could have absolutely been. I have a lot of clients that are trans and queer and LGBTQ plus, and I find that social can be such a place of belonging and acceptance and self-expression.
Yes.
Right?
I feel like
But
that's true.
we humans can take anything. I mean, when the printing press happened, you had gossip newsletters, right? Like
Yeah.
we can take anything and we can
Yeah.
create harm out of it. I think the Taylor Swift piece of it is that we have always, from the very inception of my knowing of our being, idolized. We have always wanted to build up idols because it shows us what's possible. So I think when I see people getting excited about that, I'm like, oh, it's giving them hope that romance is possible for them too.
Right.
But here's the shadowier side. We like to build people up to also tear them down.
I was just going to say, I was thinking that too. It's like you're happy for their success, but God, you hope they fail.
Yeah, because you have so much internalized shame.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier to project that outward at others than to just deal with the shame that exists within us. So we'd rather see other people fall.
Just want to clarify that I hope Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce live happily ever after. I don't want their marriage to fail.
Lord gets canceled by the Swifties.
Exactly. All of a sudden, nobody's listening to Everybody Talks because I
I don't think that's our audience anyway.
So we're good. I just want to make that clear. I hope she's happy.
I think people do, we're so trained to, like a car crash. We are so trained to look at the negative and we're bombarded in the news by it. And that's all we see. And we don't look for those other pieces, and we don't think that they even exist because we're not seeing them in our mainstream.
Right.
Yeah. I'm trying really hard to make that part of what I post is like, this is who we are. Let me show you this community that's come together to help or whatever it is. Because I want us to focus on that.
Yeah. I think that's great.
I mean, dialing back to just like your own personal self, like you dealt with your own kind of burnout and like a switch in careers. And so how do you help someone, like I've been at my job for 30 years and I still enjoy it to some extent, but I look at it quite differently now than I did in the beginning. But how do you help someone out of that burnout to see what they really truly want, to get out of it, or B, to switch and try to do something else?
Yeah. You said the magic words, which is what they really truly want. What I find with people who are dissatisfied in their careers or their relationships and they're still there is that they don't believe they have permission to want, period. Or they believe that their want is too much or too selfish or too greedy, right? That's somebody's voice from a long time ago instilling this belief that wants are not acceptable. So for me, it becomes about connecting you to the part of yourself that has desire and teaching you how to listen to that self and showing you how powerful that self has been I'm all about evidence, how powerful that self has been in your life in bringing forward the things that you have that you love, that you enjoy. The experiences that have served you have all come from that desire self. If you didn't want it, you wouldn't have made it happen. And so it's really about retraining the wires in the brain to say want and desire are my pathway towards my purpose, towards doing the things that I'm meant to do here for my own good and the higher good of other people, versus my wants and my desires are superfluous and shameful and greedy and selfish. That's what's keeping people stuck. So it's about reconnecting people to desire and seeing desire as such a powerful force for good for yourself and the world.
Yeah. And making it okay, making it like,
yes,
like you're not, you don't second guess it. And you don't, I think there's a lot of negative self-talk, but there's also like a lot of comparison and like, well, I shouldn't be doing that because that person does it better. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to just be over here doing this because I don't belong in that space. Right. So I think it's like wrapping your head around like, what do you, like what you just said, what do you really want and believing that you can have that and it's okay.
Right. That's right. Yeah. And there's not someone out there who's more deserving or better suited.
Right.
Imposter syndrome is so convincing. And the greatest myth about imposter syndrome is the person you're looking up to has imposter syndrome.
Has it too. They totally have it too.
So funny.
No, I mean, you make me think of the example of this podcast. Like it's like, who are we? Like we just decided, we were like, okay, we're going to start this. And now we're like 2 years in. We both enjoy it. We love talking to people like you. And it's been, at least for me, another creative outlet
Right.
that you're like helping to live your life.
Right.
That's
And
right.
also it's like you help people not only in careers, but in their personal, obviously in their personal lives too, and how they
Yeah.
deal with family and close relationships. And
Yeah,
how do you
that's all.
how do you reframe that? Um, it's funny. I'm about to go to a sad family event, and I'm going to be in touch with people that I haven't seen in a while, and I'm glossing over
Mhm.
giving you the treetops as so not to insult anyone or call anyone
Mhm.
out.
Mhm.
But it's like thinking, like preparing, I'm having trouble preparing. I'm ignoring that I have to do this in a couple of days. And so how would you prepare, for something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the same boat sometimes when I have to go be around people from my past. I'm sorry that it's a sad event.
Yeah, that's okay.
I will tell you, it's really important for you to clock who makes you feel small, what story they're making you believe about yourself, and deciding with all this wisdom and this power that you now have cultivated, I'm going to choose not to be in that story around that person. And so, whatever it takes to not be in that story about myself, I'm going to do that thing. So, if that means I talk to you for 5 minutes, I find a way to be in a separate room, whatever your highest self, the one that wants dignity, needs to be in her dignity, you're going to choose to do that for her instead of buying into whatever story about you this person either has or knowingly or unknowingly wants to trigger in you so that you can get down to their level and they can feel bigger, badder, smarter, better.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, which they already feel.
That's perfect.
That's perfect.
That's
Which
perfect
they already
advice,
feel.
though, because
But you
That
don't owe
is
them
good
that.
advice.
You don't owe them that experience.
Yes.
You are not
Yes.
here to make them feel bigger
That's
and more
right.
expanded.
Yeah.
You are here
Yeah.
to be the most expanded you. That is your job. Your job
Yeah.
is not to make them feel. You know what happens when we do that? When we play small for other people because we can sense that they need it, the message we're sending them is, you are so weak that I have to be smaller so you can handle it. But if we really want to be loving, empowering people, what we're saying is, you can handle me. I believe in you. Even if you don't believe in you, even if you're really uncomfortable with my biggest self showing up in this room, I think you can do it. I'm not going to play small out of a belief that you can't handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Wow.
There you go.
That is
There
very
you
good
go.
advice. That
Let
is
me
very
know
good
how it
advice,
goes.
I have to
I
say.
know.
I know.
I want to know how it goes, too.
I know. Well, you definitely will hear how it goes.
I like, this sort of idea that the answers aren't out there for us,
They're
right?
perfect.
Like they're all inside of us. And
Yeah.
but why do you think that that truth feels so difficult for people to believe? Like, you hear these things and you're like, oh, no, that's not, that can't be right.
Yeah,
That can't
yeah.
be true. I mean, it sounds like once you do believe those truths, it's very liberating. If we sort of know that the answers aren't out there and they are already inside of us, why do we have such a hard time with that truth?
We don't know that.
We don't know that.
That's why. I mean, I want you to think about how many times you've been told that in your life.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
How many times in your life were you encouraged? How many times when you went to go ask for advice? This is something I've really practiced with my kids since they were little. How many times has that person said, well, what do you think?
Yeah.
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 What do you feel? What do you know? I've really with my kids just tried to start with, what's your knowing self? Well, I blah, blah, blah. That sounds right to me. Wow. So much wisdom in that. How often did that happen to you as a child, a teenager, a young adult, even now? We don't know that the answers are in us. That is why, because we live in a society, in a system that wants us to rely on other people's answers. It gives other people power. It makes our economy spin. So it's dangerous. It's really dangerous for the society we have today for people to believe that the answers are within them. That is where we're going. Whether people like it or not, we are evolving to a place where we will know that. I
hope
am
so.
sure
I
of it.
hope so.
Yeah.
It
I
may
hope so
not be in
too.
our lifetime, but it is the next
Yeah.
evolution of
Well,
our.
it's
Yeah.
definitely not in Lori's lifetime because apparently she's kicking
done.
off right after this podcast.
It's all over.
It's over
It's all
for her.
over. It's all over. Oh
That's
my
the first
God.
time that I heard, Lori, that once you have the wisdom, it's,
You're done.
That's it.
So
You're done. Well,
that
I've
should be my
introduced
next
something
book.
to you that exactly. Higher self. I found my higher self. Goodbye.
Goodbye. And you just say goodbye.
Oh my God.
Oh my
Okay. So for our listeners or anybody out there who is kind of like ready to start listening to themselves, what are some simple things that they can do to kind of reconnect?
First, I want you to ask yourself what story you have about trusting yourself. What is that story? Who implanted that story? Is that story actually true? And does it serve you? Second, I'd love for you to play with this spectrum I just showed you around feeling the fear and then taking a deep breath. And this is all you have to do, by the way, you guys, your consciousness is so powerful. You take a deep breath and you just say to yourself, I'm ready to hear the wisdom within. Your conscious, that's all it needs. Listen, notice the difference. Notice the difference. And it's okay if the first time you don't hear anything. We are so we need quick results, right? Keep working on it. Keep quiet. Keep breathing. Keep saying, I trust the part of me that knows. I want to hear from you. The more you say that, the more it will start speaking to you. And start to notice the difference. What does it feel like when I'm in communication with that self versus the school bus full of children over here who are holding on to their limiting beliefs out of a protection strategy?
Yeah. Wow. That's great. That is great. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. The book again is Higher Self, Reclaiming the Power of Your Intuition. Is there anything you want to add or where people can find you? Or
Sure. Yeah. I'm on Instagram at Mory Fontanez. My podcast with my best friend is Signal with Mory and Melissa, and she's the skeptic. So it's really fun.
Oh,
to
okay.
hear
That is
her
funny.
That's great.
We should
constantly
do
being
one
like,
with
"What are
the
you
two.
talking about?"
Yeah.
We should do an episode with the two of you and the two of us.
That's a great idea. That'll be really fun. Yeah.
That
And
would
then
be really fun.
You can find Higher Self anywhere that you buy
Yeah.
books.
Okay. Great.
That's great. Thank you very much.
This is
Lauren.
awesome.
Thank you,
Take-
ladies. This was so fun.
Thank you. Take care. All right. So I really enjoyed that.
I loved her.
I loved her too.
That was really, I do always feel like they're reading us.
Totally. Like we were talking just after we recorded of how she was feeling about the two of us, which I think she read you perfectly.
Everyone
She said
reads me because I am
yes,
so.
you are like an open book. The pages are open.
They're
and
open.
unfurled. It's like you're like one of those scrolls that you just go like this and it rolls down and there you are.
There I am. No, but like she was saying, like my emotion, I feel so much.
You do.
And
You do.
that I think that emotional energy, is picked up on when you
agree.
are someone that has the
Right.
intuition that she has. Although apparently we all have it.
We all have it. And I like that she said at the end that I have like an edge to mine.
You
I'm
have an
highly
edge.
evolved.
Well, she didn't say that. Let's not
kinda
go
said that.
crazy.
kinda said
Well, no,
that.
she did say
Say
that,
that.
like your skepticism is sort of a
It works in my favor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm questioning, which I am. I think I'm I don't know if it's like it's part of my job. Like I'm very, I don't want to say jaded, but I'm never as believing of what is appearing in front of me.
Yeah.
I always think there's like, an angle or someone
an ulterior
There's
motive.
an ulterior motive. Like I always try to see what that is, and then I'm happily surprised when it's not there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, but I kind of look for it always first.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
you
a
do,
lot of
for
times.
sure.
Yeah. But yes.
Sorry, the dogs.
The
Milo
dogs,
is
I know Milo's scratching,
So annoying.
the four of them.
But yeah, I thought that was really great. And the book, I hope she gives me. I hope she said she was
I
going to
know.
send me some
Yes.
tips and techniques
Yes.
to quell my anxiety.
I know. I feel like what she was talking about was very helpful.
Yes,
You know,
for
Like,
me for
very-
sure.
For me for sure, and also very practical. It wasn't as woo woo as
Right.
we thought going in. Like I think that she just has a lot of practical advice.
Yeah.
to,
Absolutely.
like, find that inner self. in you.
Absolutely. And it's so funny that she listens to the telepathy tapes because I always
I know
go
you-
back to that when we
love
talk to
those,
people
yeah.
like this, like Laura Day and
Yeah.
you got to listen to them.
I know.
I actually have to finish. I never finished them, but anyway, so yeah, I hope you
Anyway.
guys like that.
Yeah, I'm Lori Schulweiss.
And I'm Jen Giamo.
And this was Everybody Talks.
Talk to you next time. For more information about our podcast, to learn more about us, or to catch up on all of our episodes, go to our website at everybodytalkspodcast.com.
Follow us on Instagram at Shirley, at Jen Giamo, and at Everybody Talks. And if you want to watch today's episode, go to our YouTube channel at Everybody Talks Podcast.
If you want to be a part of the conversation, join the Everybody Talks community and become an exclusive member of our wellness group. Check out the link in our show notes to learn more.
Don't forget, if you like what you've heard, give us a 5-star rating, write a review, and tell a friend. We're for everybody and everybody. The Everybody Talks podcast is co-created, executive produced, and hosted by us, Lori Schulweiss and Jen Giamo. Produced and edited by Station 16.
Our theme song music is written and performed by Jackie Ryle and Aaron Navisi, with additional support from our pups, Oliver, Milo, Murray, and Frankie.
Talk to you next time.